Hello everybody, and welcome back to Password. So, I did want to do this route where I kill the Sal, try to see, because it's 14 days total in this route. So I kind of wanted to see, like, the variance, I guess. So, hopefully it won't take too long, and then we'll be done with Tyson's route for a while, hopefully. And I can do someone else's route. So, yeah, let's kill the boy. Sorry, excuse me. I hesitated. A sudden flash of my dad crosses my mind. Was this the right thing to do? Was this what he would have done if it meant keeping me safe? Sal looked at me, waiting. He wasn't putting up a fight, and if I wanted to, it'd be done. We're no longer friends. We stopped being friends the moment you killed Dean, and made it worse by killing Roswell too. I glared at him, as hard as I could, and wished I'd brought something with me after all, or met up with Tyson to see if he found a weapon of some kind. I hate you. He growled. The growling had returned. My teeth were clenched, and my fists soon to follow. I couldn't bring myself to yell, but instead the voice that came out of my mouth was barely recognizable as my own. You'd be better off dead. I understand. I stood there for a moment, wondering what happened next. With no weapon, killing him was going to be difficult. Dave, all things considered, I don't think you'll be able to kill me. I shoot him a look, but I let him continue. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Why should I trust you? As it stands, I'd probably go to jail. If you killed me, then you'd be going to jail instead. So, don't worry about it. I'll handle it myself. It didn't sink in at first, but it dawns on me, causing me to take a step back. But all I could do was nod, turning away. Was this really all right? It doesn't matter. What had been said had been said. When I left the pool, I looked towards the mansion. No one outside as far as I could see, and I hesitated, heading back inside. But no matter how I looked at it, I couldn't avoid it forever. Is that too loud? I think it is. We're gonna turn down the audio just a little bit. The game audio, anyway. As I walked back inside, I was shaking. Once I'd said it, there was no going back. It was too late to change what had happened. I'd move my microphone a bit. Yeah. Dave, did talking to Sal go all right? Yeah. My voice was barely a squeak, and I couldn't look him in the eye. And Sal, he's still there? I kept my eyes trained on the ground and didn't respond, but maybe that was the problem, as the next moment, Orlando grabbed me by the shoulder, shaking me gently. Sal's still there, right? I looked him in the eyes, briefly before looking away. The moment I went to answer him, he stepped back, terrified. What did you do? Nothing. Throwing my hands up, I walked around him as I wasn't backed up against the back door. We talked, and that's all. Liar. You did something to him, didn't you? I did nothing. I flashed him my hands, accompanied by an annoyed, if sarcastic smile. See? Hands are clean. He's fine, Orlando. He's fine. I'm fine. We're all just damn fine. You're making it really hard to cope, Dave. I thought I could depend on you through this, but now you're just acting like a jerk. Sorry. I looked around the foyer, wondering why Orlando was still alone. He did say he was here to not go missing, but even that seemed odd. Where's Haas? He was here for a bit, and then wandered off to go find Tyson. And have you seen Tyson? Not since we got back. The idea that Tyson was missing made me worry. At least with Haas, he was somewhat accounted for. Thankfully, it didn't take long. It didn't last long as a problem for him. It would whatever. Ty. The sudden pang of relief made me rush over to him and hug him around the middle. But something was wrong. He didn't budge or even flinch. Oh, okay. I kept quiet, not wanting to say what had happened at the pool. If everything went as Sal said it would, then he wasn't a problem anymore. Well, great. So, okay, let's just... Oh, okay. Looking out the window at the backyard, I wondered what had happened with Sal while I was asleep. If anyone had spoken to him after I did. The thought made my stomach flip, and I backed off, now wondering if I had let my anger get to me. Okay, so this cute scene, yeah. I looked up and saw Oswin entering the foyer from the direction of the basement. We locked eyes, not saying anything to one another at first. He wandered over to the door, towards the backyard, shooting me a quick look. I'm going to check on your friend. My eyes widened as his hand went to the door, opening it while keeping his eyes on me. Did you want to come? The two of us stepped out into the morning air, and it was chilly and fresh, or mostly fresh anyway. What's wrong? I don't know. The air smells funny. I looked at him as he breathed in deep through his nostrils. Perhaps I've spent too long holed up in the dustier parts of the house. I can't smell anything immediately amiss. Granted, the smell of blood is something still lingering in the foyer. I nodded slowly, looking around the ground. Last place I remembered seeing Sal was the pool, and I felt bad about what I'd said the day before. Do you think it's possible to forgive someone? Potentially. I question this very thing every now and again. Wondering if the parents of those children forgive my failure to save the ones I was meant to. Or perhaps the lack of forgiveness is the punishment for my arrogance, and I should wear that as part of who I am. I see. Dave, I don't fault you for wanting to hold what happened against Sal. Any reasonable person would. I do, however, believe that it is not worth forcing yourself to forgive him if you do not want to. Looking across the pool, I wondered if that's where Sal was. The place, fenced off and partially obscured with greenery, felt somewhat like a cage for a prisoner. I'm going to check on him, as he's still among the living, and regardless of what he's done, a doctor gives care to those that need it where they can. Not that I'm a good example of that, mind you. He started ahead of me, and I watched as he wandered towards the pool with his hands in his pocket. I drummed my hands on the railing surrounding the back deck before heading off to join him. I noticed Osmond stop shy of the gate heading in, hand on a latch and staring at something. He turned quickly to me as I approached, his face grim. There was a sense of sorrow in his face as he unlatched the gate and wandered in. As I lagged behind, the smell of chlorine grew stronger, and with that taint in the air from earlier. But when I stepped inside, I was greeted to a pool of red. I fell to my knees beside the pool, at a loss of what to say. A sea of red with Sal floating limply face down on the surface. Damn. Damn? Was that all either of us could say? My eyes were trained on Sal as his body, wondering what could have happened, why it happened this way, or even when. I felt sick, wondering if what I told him the day before had been the tipping point in that he'd only done himself what I couldn't. Dave? His voice was almost unrecognizable from how much I was I wasn't paying attention. I'd done this. This was my fault. Dave, move away from the water. But I didn't. I remained there on my knees staring at Sal, wondering if it was still real. Is he dead? I didn't reply, scared of what he'd say, despite the evidence sitting right in front of me. He's gone, Dave. The blood is telling enough. Right. I wore a crooked smile, struggling to process what had happened on top of everything from the past couple days. I chuckled, pained and desperate, but my body wouldn't move on its own until I was snickering and giggling to myself from my anxiety going into overload. Oswin dragged me back by the collar and propped me up against the fence to be as far from the water as possible, with his body in the way of anything else behind him. My laugh died down into an anguished whine while I rocked back and forth, hugging my knees. Dave, listen to me. You have to remain calm. You have to focus. Focus? Once again, that smile returned, almost as if I'd forgotten how I should be reacting to something like this. Focus on what? Sal's dead. He's dead. Bringing the body count to 3. I don't want you having a heart attack over something that wasn't your fault, Dave. I jumped to my feet, clinging to his coat. But it is my fault. I told him I wanted him dead. I was so mad, and now he's... Pounding on Oswin's front, I tried to vent what I was feeling in a fit of anger, trying to figure out where to direct what I was feeling. But instead, I just broke down again, whining out against his front with my face contorted in pain. Carefully, he wrapped his arms around me, and once he had me close, he squeezed, not too hard, but hard enough that it was uncomfortable, as if he didn't know how long to hug. Come on. There's nothing we can do now except head inside. He remained as a shield against me, looking at Sal's floating there. We made our way back into the house, through the foyer, while I whined, and he held me tight. I was pushed into a stool while he wandered over to the coffee machine, getting it going. I didn't see Benson, Haas, Orlando, or even Tyson yet. What do we do? Ideally, survive. Sal's passing creates some problems. Solves others. I stood suddenly as Oswin turned to me with 2 mugs of coffee, jaw clenched. What problem did it solve? He's dead. He remained motionless, looking at me with the same expression he wore most of the time. Tired, maybe bored, or maybe it was just clinical. Benson, what is your take on this? I spun around and saw Benson standing in the doorway to the kitchen behind me. On what, sir? Mr. Warden is dead. Excuse me? The pool, he and I and... Do we know the assailant? I wasn't at liberty to perform an autopsy in front of the boy, Benson. Dave, are you all right, my boy? No. Why would I be okay? Sal's dead. Oswin set a mug of coffee down on the counter in front of me, and no sooner I had registered it was there I knocked violently to the floor, the mug shattering and its contents spilling onto the floor. Now that's not very nice. Oswin Hammond, so help me, I shall bend you over my knee for my callousness. My boy, I'm sorry for your loss. Is there anything I can do? I was blindsided by the question, finding myself sitting down again. I don't know. Likely the shock isn't helping. The others will need to be informed too, naturally. Indeed, although it isn't going to be easy breaking it to the others. I'll do it. Are you sure, my boy? I wouldn't wish any undue stress given the amount you're already facing. Sal was... I didn't know which word to describe it. I was going to say friend, but for the most part, it didn't feel right. Not after what I said to him. Not after what we just discovered at the pool. It was as if I didn't feel worthy to use that title anymore. Dave, you didn't do that. I'd be more than willing to bear this with you. I'm also willing to deliver the bad news. I'd had enough practice by this point. That being painted the bad guys likely to be the better course of action. No, this is my fault. After what I told him yesterday. What did you tell him yesterday? I couldn't forgive him for what he did to Dean and Roswell, so Benson held up a hand, and I took the excuse to stop talking. He briefly shook his head, sighing. What's done is done. There was no point in dwelling on it further. I waited in the dining room while Benson went and rounded up the others. Oswin said that he was going to go back to the pool to figure out exactly what had happened, plus do something about the body. We were still trapped here until we could find a way off the mountain, and my heart sank upon remembering that Tyson was keen on dragging me off regardless. Sitting at the dining room table, I sighed out, coffee in hand. Oh, okay, time to escape. Boo. So, what if I had a knife? So what? You're nuts. It's bad enough that we have Sal to worry about, and you go pulling this shit. I rose suddenly, slamming the table and brushing off Tyson's hand as I came to try and push me back into my seat. Sal's dead. What? Tyson huffed, crossing his arms and looking off elsewhere. Good riddance. I don't believe you. He can't be dead. I'm afraid so. Osmond stepped into the dining room, Orlando and Haas stepping back to give him some space. He's not dead. Given I just performed something of an autopsy on him, believe me that I can confirm his passing. If you'd like to see the bloodstained coat I was wearing moments prior before changing his proof, I can provide it. How did he die? Who killed him? There's no easy way to put this, but from the wounds on his body and a knife I found at the scene, they were self-inflicted. Again, my heart sank as the words I said to Sal were very much to the effect where I had wanted him dead. Even then, he offered to bear that burden for me, and it looked like he did. Orlando was a mess, shaking his head despite the tears already welling up. He kept repeating the word no over and over to himself, as if trying to wake up from a nightmare he just discovered he was in. Additionally, I ran some tests on his blood. It didn't take long, as I had my suspicion of what to look for. His immune system is quite interesting. Why does that matter now? He's dead. And? Orlando looked to Oswin like he was a monster. Oswin looked, for the most part, bored, but it was hard to say how much of it was a brave front. The reason why this matters is because in his death, we can know two forms of peace. The first is that any worry that Sal will pose a threat to those of us remaining were dealt with by Sal himself. I thought that was narration for a moment. Okay. And the second, I was partially stunned, not really believing that Oswin would be so callous upon delivering news this bad. The second is that what happened a few nights ago was not Sal's fault. In part due to this. He sat down a pill bottle on the table, scratching his chin. I had my suspicions, but this was Dean's. I'd found it in his room in any case. But what is it? The label on the context, as I tested, is a compound known as sodium bear tranquilizers. A very choice treatment for insomnia despite the side effects. Such as, given Sal's unique immune system. His eyes furrowed suddenly, as if he'd had an epiphany.
No wonder the blood work was familiar. Blast! There goes another bit of data I'd never get back.
With a sigh, he stroked his beard, shaking his head.
In any case, the hypnotic side effect of the drug would have been amplified. Chances are he'd not even known what he was doing until he'd become lucid again.
Tyson, who'd been quiet for a while, huffed.
So what? Doesn't change the fact that he killed two people. A matter of perspective, but I suppose there is merit in that thinking.
But why would he have killed anyone if he was hypnotized? As if on cue, Benson strode into the dining room, hands clasped together, clasped behind his back.
Do you remember our chat a few days ago, Dave? The power of suggestion is a powerful one.
But that means someone here told Sal to... Everyone in the room swapped looks with one another, now tense again, with good news had been delivered as now overshadowed by the fact that someone had told Sal to kill two people, potentially someone in this room.
So, he's dead? Sal's dead? I'm afraid so.
Okay, I see. Orlando slumped, dragging his feet to the kitchen in a daze. Haas followed soon after.
I think it's too soon to immediately come to that conclusion, for what it's worth. I suppose it is possible that the one pulling the strings is dead now, but... Does it fucking matter?
Tyson gripped my shoulder, digging into it enough that it was borderline painful.
Not taking the chance. Dave and I are out of here.
With the road the way it is?
We're going through the woods. I can't say that's very smart. Well, it doesn't fucking matter. I'm taking Dave and we're getting out of here.
Osmond and Benson looked at one another quickly, almost sharing a whole conversation with a look.
Do you need supplies?
Batteries, maybe.
We're fine. I swiped some batteries from upstairs already.
Between the two of them, it was odd seeing Benson fuming while silent, with Osmond being so amused next to him.
Resourceful. I'll take it that you have the rest of it thoroughly handled.
Sir, you can't seriously be entertaining this idea.
They're no prisoners. If they wish to leave, then they're allowed to. Would you mind checking in on the others? I'd like to have my morning coffee, and I don't think they'd have the foresight to get it running.
Benson strode down the room towards us and into the kitchen, glaring at me briefly as he passed. But for Oswin, his smile faded while Benson was out of view, shaking his head.
I must say, while I understand your want to get off this mountain, you're doing very little to keep people on side. Tyson. The fuck do you know? Truthfully, I don't. But with those that have already died, I'm not about to willingly let that number decrease if I have to say it in that matter. We don't need your help.
Oswin wandered down the length of the room towards us, hands calmly in his pockets as he came to stop before me.
Dave, if you feel the need to come back here at any point, you may freely do so, regardless of what may happen.
With his final piece said, he disappeared into the kitchen, out of sight, to leave me and Tyson alone. Well, okay, let's just go. Oh, okay, so this whole shtick happens. Yep, our best friend Jack. I'd maybe get to see Sal again to apologize for what I said, although this was a fitting punishment for what I did to him. Okay. Oh, okay. Rushing over to my bag, I try to look for something. A loose hairpin I must have picked up, or a crowbar. While neither would have been in my bag, I looked for them anyway out of desperation. Growling, I threw my bag across the room and sat on the ground in a huff, having found nothing. I clutched at my fur, pulling tight. I had to think of something else, distracted myself with literally anything else, otherwise I'd given up on trying to help Tyson. Just as I pulled a patch of fur from my arm and yelped from the sting, my eyes shot up to the door to my room opening.
Oh good, you're awake.
I've got to go. Scrambling to my feet, I made for the door, but didn't make it past Oswin as he caught me by the scruff to hold me in place. Let me go!
And where exactly is it you need to go?
Tyson's in trouble. I need to. My attention went towards trying to shake him off me, but he had me tight.
You don't need to do anything beyond explaining what happened and why you're back.
But Tyson... In one motion, I was dragged back and promptly smacked upside the head hard. I yelped, not used to getting beaten beyond what jabs Tyson occasionally threw my way, for better or worse.
Now you listen here. I was more than willing to let that mutt assume he was in control and get himself killed so that the rest of us had an easier time of staying alive.
I stammered, trying to find a reply, but Oswin kept talking as if I was silent.
Even sending Benson after you two was to ensure that you made it back alive. So help me, if you were my son, I'd have locked you in this room sooner.
Why would you ever think that's the normal thing to do? Your son would hate you if you ever had one. Oswin's grip tightened, painfully so, until all of a sudden he released me. It happened so quick that I fell to the floor suddenly, hands going to where he'd grabbed me to check for blood.
Far be it from me to try and minimize what loss we've suffered already, you ungrateful child.
Fuck you! I spat that word at him. Getting to my feet, he made no effort to move after me, just a gesture of his head towards the door, as if telling me to scram. Yeah, let's just, Oh, okay. Oswin turned to me and, eyed me carefully, grunting, rather than saying anything specific.
Well, then I suppose there's nothing left to do, is there? I'll gather the others and we'll converse in the...
Oh, okay, so let's, So where does that leave us? We're stuck here. Tyson's still missing. And if what you said is true as far as Orlando's dad, then...
I'm not in a good spot to be in. At the very least, a decision needs to be made.
I moved to look out the window, wondering what was to happen next. Were we just waiting to die, all because of that thing downstairs? Well, let's just go. I looked around to the others, giving them nods. From how people seem to be gravitating, Orlando and Haas remained by Oswin, clearly deciding where they'd rather be. So, I'll go with Benson into the woods, and you two will try and find a way to get us home with Oswin?
That's the plan, yes. I have no preference either way, as far as who wishes to stay or go, but trust that I'll be banking on Benson to keep you safe.
I'm sorry, Dave, but I don't think I'll be much help out there in the woods. But if whatever is out there is working for your dad, wouldn't that mean you'd be safe?
Not really.
Wow, really? It can't be that bad.
If Dad wanted a time machine, I could think of a couple things he'd want a do-over on. At least from things he's said to my face. As can I. But it'd be best not to have you compromised and give Benson another person to keep alive. If you're anything like me, I don't imagine you'd be keen on running should things come on.
It's alright, Orlando. You and I have got this. Probably better if Benson and Dave head off alone if they're planning on being sneaky. Yeah, it'll be alright.
If you say so, then okay. I'll stay here and try and help out somehow.
I nodded to him, flashing him a quick smile, in hopes it'd encourage him, but it was hard to convince myself that I wasn't just as scared to go out into the woods myself as much as I wanted to. Okay. Okay, so this whole scene, that's still a thing. And day 14, go out into the...
Benson, I have a request.
A request?
I want lobster for dinner.
Oswin, I hardly think.
Please. I want you to make me lobster for dinner, Benson.
Benson fell silent, glancing at me quickly before looking back to Oswin. There was something about Oswin's tone that made me feel like the exchange was off, as if they were speaking of some kind of code, but I couldn't figure it out. Very well, lobster it is.
Good.
The word was barely finished before he seemed to hurry to go somewhere, exiting through the kitchen.
Lobster.
Well,
something to handle later, no doubt.
Why?
Best not to worry about it, my boy.
Once you've gathered yourself, meet me outside, as I'd rather be off within the hour. Okay. He briskly walked away after a curt nod and left me to my food. I forced down a couple bites, but anything more and that would make me feel sick. When I was ready, I wandered outside to meet with Benson, clutching a knife tight. Let's just, with a nod, he wandered back inside, leaving the two of us alone.
All right, shall we go?
Yeah, okay.
Stick close to me, Dave. More importantly, keep your wits about you.
It's going to be fine, right? He frowned, hesitating.
I hope so. Hold on, Dave.
Okay. Benson sat down, catching his breath and looking about the trees.
Just have to gather myself. It's been a while.
Since you went on a walk?
Sit, my boy.
Do you think we're close?
Almost certainly. That rabbit mentioned the watermill. So all we do is follow the river until we get there.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
How long do you think we've been walking for?
I honestly haven't been keeping track.
I've noticed. It's been a couple hours already. The issue becomes transporting Tyson back with us.
I'll carry him if I need to.
It may come to that.
Finally, taking a seat down on the ground, I flinched and reached underneath me to see what I sat on. This?
What is it?
A bottle, I think.
Ah.
Do you recognize it?
It's one of Oswin's.
How can you tell from this far away?
That's a complicated question.
Complicated how? It's almost like you knew it'd be out here, unless there's something unique about the bottle, but it just looks normal to me.
The label itself is enough of a giveaway, but no. I didn't know it'd be out here, although I did assume it'd be one that was removed from the lab.
Because you're the one that took it?
Well, no. But I may have, have.
A sudden, so let's,
stay here.
Benson gestured to a spot on the ground, continuing forward without me, looking around with his gun at the ready. Standing there, just waiting, watching, made me uneasy. Even with the knife, I was scared. My fur was standing on end, and I barely breathed in case I missed some sound that'd give me away, something approaching. A few minutes later, and Benson made his way back over, looking somewhat perturbed.
Even for a trap, I don't like how this feels.
It's a trap?
Of course it's a trap.
Of course it was.
Or at least that's what they're planning. They weren't planning on making this exchange without...
Oh, okay, let's just... Blood, I smell blood! I rushed forward without thinking. All I was doing was following my nose, fueled by wanting to see Tyson again. The scent of blood made me worry, but I felt a chill run down my spine the moment I saw a flash of white appearing at the entrance of the mill.
Oh, welcome, welcome. Good to see you.
Tyson?
No. Jack, your dog friend, is inside.
As I went to move forward, Jack pulled a knife out on me, and I backed up, almost bumping into Benson on my retreat. You damn naive hyena. I knew we could make a grabbing the dog work. Now, if you want to hand over the thing we want, the thing you've got there, we can call this a little trade of ours done. Benson threw the parcel onto the ground in front of him, keeping his gun pointed towards Jack.
Well, that's not very useful. How do I know if you brought the right thing? How about you open it for us?
He was looking right at me as he said that, gesturing towards the bundle on the ground. Go on, open it. Kneeling down, I peeled back the fabric, flinching upon seeing what was inside. It was a rat, dark-furred and a thick meat collar around it. A thick metal collar. Meat collar. The main thing I noted was the large cut on its torso that looked freshly sewed together.
Well, what do you know? It's the little guy.
You know this rat? They have been introduced before, yes. I stood, holding the still rat, and Jack snatching it away, ruthlessly tearing him open and digging around inside before pulling something out.
Good, it's here. Well, don't need the rest now, do we?
The rest he threw off to the side, clearly not interested in the rat itself. And Tyson?
Oh, you really want your friend, huh? Well, I suppose we can finish up here and go see him.
What do you mean? A loud bang echoed around us, and suddenly Benson was on the ground. He was gasping for air, blood seeping through his shirt and his waistcoat from the hole now in his chest.
And there's business done.
Jack put an arm around my shoulder, lazily leaning forward, where Benson struggled for air, desperately trying to tighten his grip on his gun, lifting it up enough to lift it to point at the rabbit.
You don't know how much of a relief it is knowing the butler's out of the way. Very dangerous, I'll have you know, but now that he's out of the picture, well...
Another gunshot, and Benson fell still, the ringing in my ears muffling what Jack was saying as he pulled me inside the mill. It was dusty, and the smell of blood was stronger inside. Jack was still yammering about something, but I was distracted by the feel of something wet on my fur. Blood, likely from Benson, but I was still shell-shocked from watching him die right in front of me. Even with the knife still in my hand, I was too scared to bring myself to do anything.
Here we go. One dog all for you to take.
But where is he?
Just over there. See for yourself.
He patted me on the back in the direction of a conveyor belt where the scent of blood was strongest. As I approached, my blood ran cold upon seeing Tyson slumped here, dead. Even then, I wandered forward, hoping that he was just going to suddenly move and scare me. But his body was enough of a mess that I knew it wasn't going to happen. Fur mostly stained red, deep cuts everywhere, along with exposed parts of his body. He was barely recognizable.
Jack, you done having your fun?
Yep, trade's all done. So we're good to check in on the boss now. Just need to ditch the hyena first.
You're gonna... The bear gestures at me with his gun, and a wicked smile on his face.
Get going, kid.
Go where?
Back to the mansion you crawled from. We don't need you anymore.
You're not going to kill me?
Not yet, maybe. But why don't you run along and let whoever else is here there know that we're coming? You helped us out, so why not throw you a bone?
Now scram!
I looked back at what was left of Tyson and fled. It was like I was on autopilot, running through the woods, hoping I was even going in the right direction. The knife I had dropped at some point and hadn't realized it until I almost tripped and feared I accidentally stabbed myself.
Those back at the mansion were still in danger, and despite the tears flowing down my cheeks, I had to warn them. The mansion was... as the mansion came into view, I saw Oswin standing at the back of the... Yeah, okay. Oh, well. The moment we locked eyes, he munched forward, shoulders tense and stopping shy of me before turning his attention to the woods.
You're back.
I was out of breath, having ran so far. My face was still damp and my chest on fire.
Where's Benson?
He grabbed me roughly, shaking me.
What did you do? What happened?
I fumbled over my words, a pitiful whine coming out of my mouth the moment I remembered what happened to Benson right in front of me, right next to me, then seeing Tyson underneath the mill.
Tell me, where's Benson? Where's my...
He had his snout pressed up against my nose, glowering into his eyes, but the moment I broke my eye contact, he dropped me to the ground.
This was your fault, wasn't it?
Shuffling around me and heading just inside to the tree line, I could hear him bellowing into the woods.
Theodore, say something! Anything, please!
I picked myself up and wiped my face. He knew, without me needing to say anything, he knew that Benson wasn't coming home. But Benson was the only one. Tyson wasn't coming back either. I wasn't the only one. And in a daze, I followed Oswin back inside, keeping my distance as we both seemed to be heading inside automatically. Once we were inside, Oswin just continued from there into the kitchen in a daze. You're back. But no Benson. Or Tyson. My eyes went to the floor, keeping quiet. It didn't feel real, but the smell of the blood that was still in my nose, even after running through the fresh mountain air. After a hiccup, tears started running down my face. I was tired. I was too late to save Tyson. I'd gotten Benson killed, and the guilt was starting to get to me. Hey, it's all right. We can still do something, right? They're all dead. If only I could have used the vault, then everyone would still be.
You can't be thinking like that.
Not at least not now. We need to figure out what our next move is. I need water. You go get water. Maybe go tell Oswin that we'll be preparing ourselves for the worst. Whoops. Yeah, okay, so, and then he dies. Okay. That kind of sucks, but okay. The moment I entered the foyer, my heart sank upon seeing Haas already dead on the ground. So, yeah.
Dave!
My feet were like lead, looking at Haas and the two armed guys standing in the foyer. I was stuck. What could I possibly do?
Easy and nice, come over here.
When I didn't move, he snarled at me, raising a gun to point at me.
Come here. Oh, boys. No need to be rough with him. I'm sure he'll listen.
I looked behind me, and it was hit by a scent of burning cologne and the smell of smoke. He looked familiar, and despite not having seen him only seeing him a couple of times before, one look at Orlando's face told me I needed to know. Memphis. He raised his gun at me, shooting a look at his son before returning his back to me. Okay. Any other what?
No, boss. This is the last one outside your son.
He didn't even flinch, shooting across the foyer and shooting Orlando square in the chest. There was no remorse, no hesitation, but he seemed to relish bringing his gun around and pointing it at me all the same.
See ya, kid.
Oh, so I got Path E. Okay. Cool. So I got C, D, and E for Tyson's route. Neat. hey, that was a time. I think I like C the. No, wait. I don't know. I do really like D. Like, meeting Florencia was really cool. And I guess, like, thematically, I think, like, I almost said Chase. What the fuck? Dave choosing to save Sal. Sal, like, kind of sacrificing himself for Dave. Not, like, his life. Well, yeah, I guess his life, in a way. If he's going to, like, be working for Memphis for the rest of his life, I guess that's him sacrificing himself for Dave. I kind of like that. But, still feels bad to see, like, Osmond die. Like, I like him. And Benson. I like everyone, except for Roswell. He can die. Not actually, I swear. He's just my least favorite, I guess. But yeah, next time will be, probably we'll continue Dean's route. So, yeah. Hopefully I'll see you then.